Hello, Happy New Year. It's a bit of a later record than I usually do today because it is hot. It's not as hot as it has been. We have had hotter and we will have hotter. It's been hot enough to make me grumpy. So it's evening rather than afternoon that I'm recording this. So if I look a bit overheated and floppy, it's because I'm overheated and floppy. Now, the 70s kitchen scarf I haven't touched since the last time I showed you. It looks exactly the same. I've even still got the pickup stick shuttle that I'm using tied in place to bring it out to show you. So I just haven't touched it. There's no real reason for that. It's not a particularly complicated weave. I have done more complicated weaves than that. It's just, I think my brain at the moment is going, I don't want that complication. I just want to do back and forward very simply. So I will get to it. I'm not going to promise it for next week. I will promise it for before the end of March. I think that that's reasonable. In the meantime, though, I have got this off the loom. This came off the loom this morning. So, you know, I haven't been that productive lately. So I'm going to show you the length of this. I'm going to show you a little bit up close because I want to show you what the warp has already done, which is exciting. So under tension, this warp, which looks like this when it hasn't got weaving on it, is I think it's an 8-ply merino, and I'll see if I can show you what I'm about to talk about. I might not be able to. I'm not very professional. So that's how it looks under its normal tension. But then when it's on the loom, it becomes quite thin because it's under tension. So this was quite a gappy weave, but as soon as the tension came off, that warp shrunk back in on itself a little bit, and it has already started to fill out. So when I wet finish this, that should bloom out beautifully and give a really good sort of dappled light effect against the blue. There is a mosquito in my face. I'm just warning you, if I start clapping, it's because there's a mosquito and I'm trying to shoo it off. So that needs to have its fringes done. Needs to twist those and then wet finish it because, as I said, it did come off the loom this morning. Now, I do have something already on the big loom, which I will show you in a second. But my first plan, I've abandoned. But I'm going to tell you about my first plan because it was going to be a triangle. You can weave a triangle on a rigid heddle loom. It's not that complicated. It's a little bit fiddly, but it's not that complicated. And basically, you take all of your warp and then strand by strand, you use that warp as the weft. So you take your up and down threads and take them through as the side to side threads. And that naturally forms a triangle. And I was going to jump in and do that. But then I did some maths, which doesn't sound like me. But I did, and realised that with the width of my loom, which is 60 centimetres, I was going to end up with a very short, very shallow triangle, which is not what I wanted. If I'm going to do a triangle, I want it to be a nice deep triangle. The sort of shawl you can wrap around your shoulders, stand on a cliff's edge, look out to sea and wonder when your husband's going to come back from sea. That kind of thing, which is not possible on a loom of my size. I do still want to weave a triangle. I am having a think about how I might achieve it without buying one of those triangle looms. I would really like to buy one of those triangle looms. I would need to knock a wall through at this point to get one of those triangle looms into my house. So I'm trying to find a way around that in order to weave a triangle. Because I have some beautiful yarn that my friend Debbie sent me in shades of red and purple, and I want to do a triangle. It's, in my mind, that's destined to be a triangle. So I will show you what's on the big loom, which is using some vintage yarn. I have remembered to turn my fan off this time. I'm really coming along professionally. I'm also very warm. As is tradition, fresh on the loom. There's my hem stitching. This yarn comes to me courtesy of Christine, who found it at her mother's place and thought I might like to weave with it. And sent, I think, 7, but I should have double-checked that before I committed to a number. It's a vintage yarn, so that's how it looks on the ball. It's one of those yarns with a cardboard core. That didn't sound like anything, but trust me, there's cardboard in there. I can't squish it. I'll show you the label. It is Spangle by Emu, and it was on special for $1.99 when it was purchased. I miss these little special price tags. It's viscose predominantly, with a little bit of acrylic and polyester. And it is a really, really strong yarn, so it's holding up beautifully for the warp. But it is also a textured yarn, which I'm going to try and show you there. There we go. So you can see there's some sort of loose spun bits that's giving this beautiful textured, mottly textured effect. And I love these colours. These colours are phenomenal. It's this really beautiful, cheerful combination of orange and yellow. Nice and bright, nice pure colours. It's putting me in mind a little bit of the Lorax, and I would call this the Lorax wrap when it's finished, but I would be sued into oblivion. So I'm just going to call it the Lorax wrap in my head, because they can't sue you for what's in your head. So that is what is on the big loom. It is a plain weave. It is naturally being quite an open weave because when I put the shuttle through, there's my shuttle, and when I put that through and then beat into place, and I remind you that beating is not as violent as it sounds. It is just when you take the heddle, which I'm going to try and do one-handed now to impress you, and it didn't work. There we go. So there's the heddle. So to beat, you literally just press it against the thread that you've just put through, and that just puts it into place. So I'm just going to use my other hand there. There we go. And that was nearly impressive. So when that happens, because it catches on the texture itself, it's giving me this naturally open weave, which I'm hoping is going to give me a really nice drape. I don't know what I'm going to do about the fringe yet. We'll worry about that later. That is a problem for future me. Current me just needs to weave to the end. I don't know how long it is. I didn't measure. One day I'm going to measure things, and it's going to break the internet. Anyway, this is happening on the big loom. This one shouldn't take too long, and hopefully I can show it to you next week, though that's a voice of someone who probably shouldn't make any promises. Now, there was supposed to be a video last week, and there wasn't, because the kit that I was doing the video on was so thoroughly unenjoyable. I had trouble with the materials because they weren't as quality as advertised. It was a do-it-yourself handbag kit, and so the materials were not the quality advertised. The finished size wasn't going to be the size advertised by a good 10 centimetres. 10 centimetres. And the tutorial was awful. So it came with a QR code to watch the video tutorial, and it was so badly shot. Now, I don't do a lot of tutorials. I think I've done one. And I feel like the point of a tutorial is to show what you're supposed to be doing. And in this case, it was mostly the person's hands just in the way completely, so you couldn't see what was happening underneath them. They were assembling pieces, but not showing you which side should be up and which side should be out or underneath or whatever. And I had to find a second tutorial from the same company, just not listed in their tutorials list, to get any progress happening at all. And about 6 hours in, I just thought, I am having a really bad time. I do not enjoy this. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to start my channel New Year with that kind of negative energy. We're going to avoid the negative energy. I don't know where that came from. But I just didn't feel like giving this company particularly the time of day. I think if I did do another do-it-yourself handbag kit, and there was a lot of it that was satisfying, like it's all pre-punched holes, and that's fun. That's like doing those lace-up cards when you're a kid. I would actually spring for a higher quality, proper leather one. Although this one was not the cheapest one out there, so it was kind of in the middle range. So I'm kind of like, I don't want to talk about this company. I don't want to give them publicity because they're doing such a dodgy job. And I just thought, I'm not having a good time. And I think that is... I'm getting to the point, maybe. I think maybe that is my New Year's resolution. If I'm not having a good time with a craft kit or a project, or not necessarily a project, because sometimes you have to see them through, otherwise you never get to use your loom again. But I think for things like craft kits and whatnot, I think I'm going to treat them the way that I treat books. If I'm not having a good time, I just don't finish them. I can repurpose the bits for other things. It's fine. So that is all I have for you this week. So next week, hopefully, the big loom will be empty. This will be wet finished. It's been in my pocket this whole time. This dress, by the way, which I made last year and said I wasn't sure how long it was going to last, has held up much better than I thought it would. But it is falling apart on the inside of the neckline because the fabric is fraying, and because one part of the fabric is little whisper thin strings of nylon. The stitches can't hold it, so the neckline's going to go first. The rest of it's holding up fine, just if you were wondering. Anyway, that's all I have. Didn't I already say that? It's safe to say that I'm not starting this year with any level of professionalism. You have a lovely rest of your week. Take care of yourself, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.